Abraham is remembered as the father of faith, the man who trusted God so completely that three major religions still trace themselves back to him. What nobody talks about is what that faith actually did to his life, because from the inside, Abraham's story is not peaceful. It's decades of waiting, famine, fear, family fractures, impossible promises, public humiliation, watching cities burn, sending one son into the desert, nearly killing another one with his own hands because a voice told him to. And the worst part, the voice never explains itself for very long. It just keeps asking for more. So let's talk about what it actually felt like to be Abraham. You're born in Ur, not the crumbling wasteland people picture when they think ancient world. Ur has walls, markets, ziggurat towers so tall they make you feel small just looking at them. Your father Terah is comfortable enough. You have brothers, Nahor, Haran, a home, a fire to sit next to at night. Then Haran dies. Your brother, just gone, no battlefield, no great story, just dead in the city he was born in, leaving behind a son and a hole in your family that nobody knows how to talk about. Your father goes quiet in the way old men go quiet when grief gets into their bones. Not loud, not dramatic, just hollow. Terah decides to leave Ur, head west. Canaan, he says. Nobody argues. Grief doesn't need a debate. But the family never makes it. They stop halfway in a city called Haran, the same name as your dead brother, as if grief had followed the family there too, and your father just sits down and doesn't get back up. He lives the rest of his life in a city named after the son he buried. 205 years old when he finally dies. You are 75 when it happens. 75. Most men your age are waiting to die. You're about to start over. The voice comes without warning. Not a dream, not a vision you can shake off with cold water. A voice, direct, intimate, like someone leaning close in a quiet room. Leave your country, leave your people, leave your father's house. Go to the land I will show you. No destination, no map, just go. And I'll tell you when you get there. And in exchange, a nation. Descendants too many to count. A name that will echo through history. You're 75 years old, and a voice is offering you a dynasty. You go. Because once a voice like that enters your life, there is no going back to being ordinary again. So you pack everything. Your wife Sarai, your nephew Lot, every servant, every animal, every clay pot you own. You walk into Canaan, and the voice speaks again. This land, I'm giving it to your descendants. And you look around at a land already crawling with Canaanites, and you don't say a word. You build an altar. You keep moving. Then the famine comes. You've barely arrived in the promised land, and the ground stops making food. So you do what anyone does when the land betrays them. You go to Egypt, and this is where the story starts exposing parts of Abraham people usually avoid talking about. Sarai is beautiful, genuinely turn heads in the market beautiful. And you know what Egyptian officials do when they see a beautiful woman traveling with a man? They take her. And they kill the man first so he can't complain about it. So before you cross the border, you make a deal with her. Tell them you're my sister. She is technically your half-sister's. So it's not entirely a lie. That's what you tell yourself. The Egyptians see her. Exactly like you feared. Pharaoh's officials bring her to the palace, and Pharaoh keeps her. And you stand there while they hand you livestock and silver in exchange. You get richer. Sarai disappears behind palace walls. God sends plagues on Pharaoh's household. Pharaoh figures out what happened. He confronts you, and his exact words are essentially, "What is wrong with you?" Then he hands Sarai back and throws you out of Egypt. No apology from you, no record of one, just Abram walking back out into the desert, wealthy and quiet, his wife beside him. The whole episode buried under forward momentum. You never talk about it again. Back in Canaan, the land causes new trouble. Your herdsmen and Lot's herdsmen keep fighting over grazing land. The tension gets loud enough that you sit Lot down and make him an offer. You choose first. I'll take what's left. Lot looks east and picks the Jordan Valley. Green, watered, perfect. You watch him go. And then you're alone in Canaan, standing in a land that belongs to other people, promised to descendants you don't have yet, with a wife who has never been able to conceive. The voice comes again. Look around. North, south, east, west. All of it yours. And your descendants, like dust. Uncountable. You build another altar. The promise still hasn't happened. And slowly faith starts turning into endurance. A decade passes, 10 years since the promise, 10 years of waiting, 10 years of watching Sarai's face whenever someone else's child runs past. 10 years of not saying the thing you're both secretly thinking. Maybe we misunderstood. Maybe the promise meant something else. Maybe the voice wasn't what we thought it was. Sarai breaks first, not in grief, in practicality. She brings you her Egyptian servant, Hagar. Sleep with her. Maybe I can build a family through her, and this is where Abraham does something the Bible never tries to sanitize. He agrees immediately. By the standards of the world they lived in, this was normal. Hagar gets pregnant almost immediately, which somehow makes the promise feel both closer and more broken than ever. And the moment she does, something shifts in the air between the two women. Hagar starts looking at Sarai differently. Sarai starts feeling it, that particular humiliation of watching another woman carry your husband's child when you couldn't. She comes to you furious. This is your fault. And Abraham, father of faith, future patriarch of nations, responds with one sentence that immediately makes the whole household colder. She's your servant. Do whatever you want with her, not your finest moment. And now the household starts rotting from the inside. Sarai is so brutal to Hagar that Hagar runs away into the desert, pregnant, alone, running from your camp into the wilderness because staying had become unbearable. An angel finds her at a spring and sends her back. She returns. She has the boy, Ishmael. You hold him, and for the first time in a decade, the promise finally feels real. This is it. This is how it starts. For 13 years, Abraham thinks the story is finally settling down. Then God tells him he was wrong. Ishmael is not the son of the covenant, and just when Abraham finally starts settling into the life he has, God changes the terms again. You are 99 years old when the voice returns with the full covenant. A new name. Abram becomes Abraham, father of many nations. Sarai becomes Sarah, and now the covenant comes with a physical condition attached to it. Circumcision. Every male in your household, permanent, painful, irreversible, no opting out. You do it the same day, yourself. Ishmael. Every man in your camp, 99 years old. Then 3 strangers appear at your tent in the heat of the day. You don't know who they are yet, but you run, actually run, which is not something 99-year-old men do, to greet them. You wash their feet. You kill a calf. You bake bread. You stand beneath a tree while they eat, like a servant waiting on kings. One of them says it plainly. This time, next year, Sarah will have a son. Sarah is behind the tent flap listening. She laughs. Not because it's funny, because at some point impossible promises stop sounding holy and start sounding exhausting. Not a joyful laugh. A tired one. The laugh of a woman who has spent 90 years watching life refuse to become what she hoped it would. The voice asks why she laughed. Sarah panics. I didn't laugh. Yes, you did. She did. And then Abraham discovers something terrifying about following God. Sometimes the voice that blesses you is also the voice heading toward judgment. The strangers are going to Sodom. Your nephew Lot lives there. You know what God thinks of Sodom, and suddenly Abraham does something nobody expects from him. He argues, what if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? God says no. 50 righteous, the city lives. You push further. 45? Fine. 40, 40, 30, 20, 10. You negotiate with God all the way down to 10 human beings. There aren't 10. Sodom burns. Lot escapes. His wife looks back at the city and turns into a pillar of salt. And Abraham stands on a hill the next morning watching smoke rise from the valley like a furnace. Somewhere in that smoke is every person who didn't make it out. And even after bargaining God down to 10, it still wasn't enough. You turn around and keep walking. Then the exact same mistake happens again. New king, new territory, same fear. She's my sister. Abimelech takes Sarah into his household. God appears to Abimelech in a dream and tells him the woman is married. Abimelech wakes up furious, and this time Abraham finally admits the truth underneath all of it. I thought they'd kill me for her. Twice. The father of faith, still afraid. Then Isaac arrives. Sarah is 90 years old when she gives birth, and Abraham is 100. And whatever shame he still carried about Hagar or Sodom or Egypt probably dissolves the moment he holds this child, this impossible child, this child that should not exist. You name him Isaac, laughter, The son of laughter, born to a woman who laughed at the promise and survived long enough to hold it in her arms. For a few years, life almost feels normal again. Then Sarah sees Ishmael laughing. At what? Nobody records, maybe just being a teenager. And something inside her snaps. Send them away, him and his mother. The slave woman's son will not share the inheritance with my son. You are devastated. Ishmael is your son too. 13 years you raised him believing he was the one. 13 years loving him. And now the voice speaks again. Listen to Sarah. So early the next morning you pack bread and a skin of water. You place them on Hagar's shoulders, and you send her and your son into the desert. You watch them disappear into the horizon. You don't go after them. The text never records what Abraham felt in that moment. It doesn't need to. Isaac grows. And just when Abraham thinks the testing might finally be over, the voice returns one last time. Take your son, your only son, the one you love, Isaac. Go to the region of Moriah, sacrifice him there. And somehow, after everything, Abraham still gets up early. Before anyone can stop him, before he can think too long, he saddles the donkey himself, cuts the wood himself, takes the knife himself, and starts walking. 3 days, 72 full hours to change his mind. He doesn't. 3 days of looking at his son, knowing what waits at the end of the road. 3 days carrying faith and horror in the same chest. On the third day, you finally see the mountain. You tell the servants to stay behind. We will go worship, and we will come back. We, both of us. Isaac carries the wood. Abraham carries the fire and the knife. And then Isaac asks the question that turns the entire story into something unbearable. Father, yes, my son? The fire and the wood are here, but where's the lamb? And Abraham says the only thing he still can. God himself will provide. You keep walking. You build the altar, arrange the wood, bind your son, the one you waited a century for, the one named Laughter. You lay him on the altar, raise the knife, and for one impossible second, nothing happens. Then the voice calls out again, Abraham, Abraham, here I am. Do not lay a hand on the boy. And for the first time in 3 days, Abraham can finally breathe. You look up. A ram is caught in a thicket by its horns. You cut Isaac loose and sacrifice the ram instead. Then you walk back down the mountain together. The text moves quickly after that, the way stories move quickly when the emotional weight becomes too heavy to fully describe. Sarah dies at 127 years old. Abraham mourns for her, weeps for her, then stands up and calmly negotiates for a burial cave. Life keeps moving, even when grief wants it to stop. Later, Abraham sends a servant back to his homeland to find Isaac a wife. The servant finds Rebekah and brings her home, and the text says something quietly devastating. Isaac loved her, and he was comforted after his mother's death. Isaac needed comforting after his mother died. The text never says what Isaac needed comforting from before that. And by the end of his life, Abraham has become something much stronger than a hero, a man held together almost entirely by faith and momentum. He takes another wife, Keturah, has more sons, gives them gifts and sends them east away from Isaac, still protecting the inheritance, always protecting the inheritance. Abraham dies at 175 years old. And the text says something remarkable. Isaac and Ishmael bury him together, both sons, the chosen ones, and the one sent into the desert, standing side by side at the same grave. That's the thing about Abraham nobody talks about. He wasn't a flawless saint. He lied twice about his wife to save himself, sent one son into exile, nearly sacrificed another, watched cities burn, kept obeying a voice that constantly demanded more than any normal life could survive. And somehow, he kept walking. For 100 years, through famines, failures, fear, silence, impossible promises, he kept walking. It's not a clean ending, but real lives rarely are. And after 100 years of following that voice, maybe that was enough.